coaching is a calling. It's not a profession.
There's nothing to fix. Our clients are incredibly resourceful, and it's just having that belief and holding that space.
At the end of the day, I think coaching is all about being present the now and what we take back, which is powerful.
If you wanna walk fast, walk alone. If you wanna walk far, walk together.
Welcome everyone to our second session, Ancient Wisdom and Coaching Competencies. It's my pleasure to invite our moderator and speaker for the session, Rashmi Shetty. A brief 2 words about her. Rashmi Shetty is a professional coach. She is the founder, director of The Third Eye and comes with an eclectic mix of experience as a popular speaker, radio jockey, coach, facilitator, and visiting faculty to colleges in Bangalore. She now serves as the chair of the global board of the ICF Foundation.
Okay, so I've known Rashmi for quite some time now. And I think first when I met her, she was introduced to me as a former radio jockey. And we invited her to, in fact, anchor one of the first conferences that happened in India about coaching about 2018. And she just mesmerized the audience with her voice. I know that Rashmi really helps people. So it is not just about voice, but she helps people find their own voice and runs an award-winning podcast called, I think, You and I. What I know, and I don't know, Rashmi, whether I should be sharing it with you, but I'm just, taking our friendship for granted. So just a few months back, I think Rashmi donated her beautiful hair to charity. She literally shaved off her head. And I think that was an act of unprecedented courage and compassion that I had ever seen. So the pretty head that you see today is something that she's grown, post that charity, and I think that is something that I really acknowledge. I want to acknowledge Rashmi for. We're really fortunate to have you, Rashmi, as playing a dual role, the moderator as well as a speaker on the ancient wisdom. Rashmi has been a student of Bhagavad Gita for a very, very long time, and we could safely call her a scholar of ancient wisdom. So please, Rashmi, over to you.
Hi, Jayashree. Hi, everybody. So, ancient wisdom and coaching competencies, our topic for discussion as we begin this panel discussion. And we decided to make it more a conversation rather than keep it as a discussion. And we've made sure that we'll keep it as open as possible, because when it comes to indigenous wisdom and the ancient Indian wisdom, there's a lot within us that comes in by way of texts that we have read, books that we have read, stories that we have heard. And a lot of this has come into our coaching processes, maybe mindfully or just by default. And to understand where these core competencies for us coaches, especially, come into full play and how are they connected is where Janine will be joining me. And I request Janine to join us on stage. Hi, Janine.
Hi, Rashmi. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to the Pune chapter for
Yes.
inviting me to be part of this wonderful
Exactly.
conference.
And for thinking of such a beautiful concept. I love the very design of this conference, Roots to Wings. And to start off with the root with ancient wisdom is one of the most beautiful concepts that I've known. And Janine, you had said, like usually in coaching sessions, we have a centering that happens. So you had volunteered to do the centering for this discussion before we begin. So how would you like to take us in there?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rashmi. And I guess more will become apparent as we do our introductions. But what I'm bringing in is a perspective of Maori culture, and So one of the things that I learned through the work that I have been very fortunate to do with the Maoris is what is called a karakia. And a karakia is something that is very much a part of the rituals that they bring into their culture, which is begin a meeting with a karakia or a group or a conversation with an opening karakia and a closing karakia. So a karakia, just to provide some context, it's a tonga or a treasure. And some people might say it can be like a prayer or an intention. But for Maori people, a karakia is much more than that. And it is a way of clearing space, calling on guidance, both seen and unseen. And in coaching, it does remind us of the importance of presence, the agreements we make with one another, and trust. So it's not just the words, it's the commitment to hold space with respect, humility, deep listening. And it just so beautifully aligns with what we do as coaches to create that purposeful and transformational space for our clients. So let me begin this karakia, which was gifted to me by Rachel Patero. And this karakia was gifted to her by Fire Linda Toki, who is a highly respected elder in the Maori community. Embrace the life force of the earth. Embrace the life force of the sky. The life force I have gathered is powerful and shatters all darkness. Come, great life force, join it, gather it. It is done. Back to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Janine. Powerful words to begin the session. And talking about ancient wisdom, I come from India, a land which goes to a lot of its sacred texts. And if we go back and check it, we can do like multiple sessions on it. But a brief introduction into this entire space would not justify the depth of knowledge that is there. So I'll just briefly say, what is it that India derives from its ancient wisdom and where does it come from? Hugely influenced by our ancient culture. And, everything about these texts are about getting in touch with reality. The strong belief being that we are spiritual souls on a human journey. And all of this gets reiterated time and again, that the body is impermanent and the Atman is what is the permanent. So, if we go back in time, some people describe Hinduism, which is what India had as its culture, as a way of life, while some people call it a religious democracy, where each one chooses which part of the journey he or she is ready in, and as a part, which part to take in and delve deeper into their learning. So, our ancient texts, very interestingly, were divided into two parts. One was called the Shrutis, and the other was called the Smritis. And if we talk about Shrutis, Shrutis are that which can be heard. So it is our rishis who, in deep meditation, could hear this, and therefore orally they would give it to their disciples. Okay, I'll just pause. Hi, Ubuntu.
Hi, Rashmi. My mind told me we were starting at 12:30 with the meditation. My
You
apologies.
just made it on time. We just started with my introduction of our
Oh,
ancient
right.
texts.
Okay.
So then I'll hand it over to Janine. That'll give you enough time to, then
Okay.
you can take
All right.
over after Janine does. Okay. So these Shrutis and Smritis. So Shruti is what is heard. And most of these rishis in their meditation heard these hymns and which they wrote down much later, but initially passed it on orally. So what was heard was passed down orally because the way it needed to be pronounced was very specific. And that's how they were called the Vedas, because the belief was they came directly from the divine. So they are texts which are absolutely the primary texts, and they became so important because they told us certain rituals, how to do it. And they started off with hymns because it is easy to pass on a hymn, anything which has a meter or a chant. Then there was a whole section which was on how to do certain rituals. So it was the Samhitas, then came the Karmakandas, and then was the last part, which took us into these actual questions. But the Vedas were a little too high and philosophical for people to understand. And very easily and very logically, at the end of the Veda, which is Veda plus Anta, which is called Vedanta, is where the Upanishads were born. And the Upanishads were about, okay, the rituals, the hymns. Now let's tell you how to bring it to reality, how you lead your lives. And so they used a lot of poetry. There are 108 Upanishads, some as small as 12 verses. But what was beautiful is 10 of them are very popular. And all these Upanishads were all about how to get closest to reality. Now, if I say Atman, Brahman, people would just be put off. In order to make people understand what is this, they did it in the form of poetry, easy to repeat, and again, stories. Because stories became a very powerful way of sending these beautiful messages on how to lead your life. So far, we are still in the herd, the Shrutis, which were passed down, and the divine word. But then we moved on into Puranas and Itihasas, for example, which became Smritis, which were remembered and created or written down by humans. And in those Smritis came two very popular Itihasas called the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which is very popular world over. And in the Mahabharata, right in the center, came this book of 700 verses, which in a way put the whole Mahabharata in a capsule, or when expanded, became the Mahabharata itself, called the Divine Song in English, translated, but in Sanskrit, it is the Bhagavad Gita. And the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita is these 700 verses became the entire Upanishads put together. So it was more easy and accessible for people, because in the Dhyana Shloka of the Gita itself, it says, Sarvopanishado Gavaha Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsas Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat. All the Upanishads are likened to cows. The milkman, the cowherd Krishna. Arjuna, the son of Pritha, is the calf. And men of purified intellect are the drinkers of this milk, which is the supreme nectar called the Gita. And the entire learnings of the Upanishads, if you see, are there in these 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, which is part of a huge magnum opus of 1 lakh verses called the Mahabharata. And that's why I said, if I just go on and on and on, there is so much about the ancient texts that I can just keep the whole session on with it. But this is a session where we would be delving deeper into a couple of verses from the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, because yoga, every chapter of the Gita ends as yoga, and yoga is the union. Anything that is to be joined is called the union, and that is yoga. So every chapter is called as something and yoga, the name and the yoga. And therefore, we will go deeper into what exactly it is a little later when I come back. But then I hand it over to you, Jenny, to tell us an intro into what is that wisdom. What was that beautiful bit that you did for us to center us? Simple words, but very deep words. So handing it over to you. What are your influences and everything that we need to know about you?
Thank you, Rashmi, and really appreciate what you have shared. I have I guess, been on a spiritual journey for a very, very long time, and I have looked into the, I guess, the Indian spirituality side of things, and I know I've only scratched the surface. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation and learning much more from you. So thank you. And again, very, very privileged to be here. Thank you again to the ICF Pune chapter and Jay Shri, Rajiv, and all the team, and my two wonderful co-panelists here. And I know we had a conversation before we came onto this panel, and we knew that we were bringing very different perspectives. So my introduction is going to be quite different from Rashmi, and we really do trust that what we bring will open up a beautiful conversation. So I'm an Australian, as you can probably hear from my accent, but I live in Australia. Sorry, I live in the UK right now with my English husband. And for those of you who don't know anything about me, I am an ICF MCC coach. I am a credentialed supervisor. I'm a mentor coach, a trainer, and so much more. But my business really began, my journey of coaching began in Qatar in the Middle East. And I lived there for about 10 years, and I still travel backwards and forwards to Qatar. That's where most of my business is. So that's coming up to 20 years, not quite. And when I moved to the Middle East, I set up Empower World with my business partner. And we, as a consequence of living in Doha, we worked with many Qataris and expats from all over the world. So we created an organization, a coach training organization and program. And Marie and I came from two different schools of coaching, and she is very much into energy, and formerly she was a Bowen therapist. And as I mentioned myself, I've been on I believe, a spiritual journey for many years, particularly after my father passed away back in 2014. So both Marie and I, we've done a lot of training to be able to create what we believe is a program which incorporates the wisdom of the body, emotions, and so much more. We really do believe that we are so much more than our conscious thoughts. Now, on that journey in Qatar, I met a wonderful Maori woman called Rachel Patero, who was a successful corporate woman. And she was working in Qatar Airways, and she was sharing with me that she was bringing on board a coaching program. And it sounded very heady. It sounded very much all about being in here. So I invited Rachel to join our program and to complete our 8-day program. She loved it. And while she was there, she created an incredible vision about her future, connecting with her ancestry. So Rachel had really gone on a journey of, I guess, becoming very successful in the corporate world, which meant that she potentially had let go of some of those Maori customs, culture, etc. And not that she let go of it completely, but it kind of it had been squashed. But in that training, she connected with her ancestry, her vision to empower 100,000 women, Maori women, by 2025. So that was back in 2015. Now, her grandmother was a significant force in New Zealand in terms of gaining land back for their people after it was colonized. So there was a really strong connection with her grandmother. So when Rachel went back to New Zealand, she asked me to partner with her to create this coach training program based on Empower World's coach training program to empower 100,000 women. Now, I jumped at this opportunity to work with Rachel because I have in my family Australian, Indigenous, Aboriginal aunts and cousins. And I loved my aunts. They were aunts-in-law, let's say. My two uncles married two Aboriginal women, sisters. And when I tried to connect with them about their culture, their wisdom, they again pushed it aside. They were kind of very much in the, I guess, the colonial way of thinking, which to me was heartbreaking. So Rachel wanted to support Indigenous women, which included Australian women as well. So we did have a number of Indigenous women who joined on the journey. So Rachel and I, on our first in our first cohort, I wasn't really aware of the Maori culture, only what I had learned from Rachel and maybe bits and pieces that I'd learned and read. And Rachel and I ran that first program, and we got feedback in relation to how it wasn't, even though many of the women were saying we love the training, but there was some of the elder women who were very connected to the culture and the wisdom of the Maori culture, shared how it was disconnected from that wisdom. So it was a huge, huge eye-opener learning opportunity for both of us. And for Rachel, it really set her on a path of really returning back to her truth, to really go on a journey of remembering that wisdom, tapping into her ancient culture and ancestry. So much so she really didn't speak the language, but now she is proficient in the language, which is really important to Maori. She has the moku on her chin, which is the tattoo that is all about expression of identity, ancestry, and social standing. It's not about decoration. It's about mana. It's about really connecting to truth. So that's a bit of background. Rise, I worked with Rachel for about 10 years. Rise is now interdependent. The Maori coaches that I trained have now stepped into my role, which is absolutely perfect for them to be going on this incredible journey, which also includes men, because men saw that the women were making incredible steps forward as a result of going on a journey of learning the skills of coaching. So we've now got women and men going on that journey. Now, before I hand over back to Rashmi, I'm not an expert, of course, in Maori ancient wisdom, but what I am bringing is what I have learned, which is so much for me, and what that has come into my practice. I also can't speak Maori proficiently. I know a few words, but I just wanted to share that. But again, so much gratitude and appreciation for how Rachel has opened my eyes to a beautiful way of being and just being, actually. So I'm going to hand over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Jenny. Because I think as coaches, it's all about the being. It doesn't matter whether you're qualified or not, whether you know it exactly. When you are in that moment and you're completely there, I think that's the best part. So I think just being there and being who you are is the best way of being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally with you there.
Yes,
you.
Ubuntu. Can we hear about you and the Ubuntu culture?
Thank you very much, Rashmi. And thank you for the sharing that you did, although I caught the tail end. And thank you, Janine. It's been quite a journey arriving where we are today. And it's been lovely working with you behind scenes just to see what we can cook together. And to everyone in session, Sanibonani. Well, my ancient wisdom starts with just that conscious greeting. Sanibonani for a plural, and for one person, Sawubona. That means I see you. I see all of who you are. I see your strengths. I see your aspirations. I see myself in you as well. Because when I see myself in you, you are me, you're part of me. And it means I cannot hurt you. So I come from a culture of interconnectedness, a culture of interdependence. And where we say it takes a village to raise a child. Most of us growing up in rural Africa grew up in extended families because we don't differentiate whose kid is this biologically. You become a child of the village, such that as a child, I could not do wrong things in front of adults because they will beat the hell out of me. Even if they're not my parents. There was no calling 911 or protection. But each kid that you saw doing something that was not resourceful or building up or connecting, they would be disciplined by any person. So who am I? I am Nobantu. Even in that name, it means so much to me. And I always ask, why was I given such a responsible name? In my language, Bantu is people. So no, the prefix means mother of the people. And amazingly, I'm the last born at home and the only girl. And my brothers were in the science field, science maths field. So when I was doing my high school, they were all like certain she's gonna follow in the science field. I remember the second born, he took leave from work to make sure that I got an A in maths. And I thought, you don't know your sister. I want to work with people. So I just got my D in maths and I went to do psychology, which for me was like so liberating. I didn't like high school, the fact that I didn't have a choice on my subjects, but now I could choose and I knew being no bandu, I wanted to work with people. So my formative working years were in academia and supporting students in their development, in their psychological effects. And after that, I thought, no, now I want to work with adults who are leading other people. And so in 2000, I trained to be a coach, and then I qualified. I'm now MCC as well. And for me, coaching is a calling. It's not a profession. It's who am I and who I grew up with people who are coaches. We had people in rural areas, the wise women. We had even grandmothers. And hence, I want to challenge us all. Coaching started in Africa. It's just that we didn't write that. We didn't develop all of those. But it's something that we grew up with. And what I'm bringing today is this amazing spirit of Ubuntu. Ubuntu, in my language, it means I am because we are. That's the English translation, but it means umntu ngumntu ngabantu. I cannot be fully me if others are not fully themselves. My humanity is dependent on your humanity. And I like when Bishop Desmond Tutu talks about this Ubuntu and says, anyone who think in this world they are self-sufficient, that is a sign of being subhuman. And I want that word subhuman to sink in, because if we think we can do it all by ourselves on our own, that's not what happens. And we have a proverb in Africa that says, if you wanna walk fast, walk alone. If you wanna walk far, walk together. So this spirit of Ubuntu is a spirit of walking each other home. And it's not a spirit just that talks about humanity or human beings only. Plants, vegetation, nature, animals are part of this. When we say, I cannot be fully me, it's not just because of just human beings, but animals and Mother Nature. To a certain extent, when a child is born in South Africa, when the umbilical cord falls, that umbilical cord is taken and buried at a special place in the garden so that the child can respect nature, so that we connect and introduce that child to nature for nature, Mother Nature, to take care of that child. So there is this kind of a symbiotic kind of relationship, nature, us, animals. And as a result, even when you go and get fruit from a tree, you have to ask for the tree's permission. And you've got to leave some seeds. That spirit of give and take, reciprocity. So Desmond Tutu says a person with Ubuntu is open and available to others, affirming of others, does not feel threatened that others are able and good, for he or she has a proper self-assurance that comes from knowing that he or she belongs in a greater whole and is diminished when others are diminished. And Martin Luther King Jr. says, all I'm saying is simply this: all life is interrelated. And in real sense, we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. Later, as we explore this, I'm going to show how Ubuntu can help us as coaches and coachees to walk each other home through presence, through body, through movement, through that tuning in deeply. Just looking at this client and saying, Sawubona, you're the main person that's so important in the 8 billion people in the world. So I'm happy to be here. And feeling sad that I don't see people. I love faces of people. But I see you in my mind. I can see the number, but I don't see you, but I see you. Sawubona. Thank you.
This is so beautiful. Our languages may be completely different, Ubuntu, but as you were speaking, what I was thinking is in India, we have a phrase called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. And I can see it happen here. Exactly what even our Mahavakyas, which is again taken from the Upanishads, and they also speak similar languages like you just spoke while you were explaining Ubuntu. And when you're saying Ubuntu and you say that I am because we are, the Mahavakyas also go that way. It says from the Rig Veda, if you take, it says Prajnanam Brahma, which means the consciousness that you feel right now is the Brahman, the Supreme. While the Samaveda, which is, there are 4 types of Vedas, and Samaveda and Upanishad from there says Tat Tvam Asi, one of the most popular Mahavakyas, which is thou art that, which is the Brahman again, which is the Supreme. The Yajur Veda, again, one of the Vedas and one of the Upanishads there says Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Brahman. And the Atharva Veda, again, one of the Upanishads there says, I am Atma Brahman, which is this very self is the Brahman. So if you see, all the 4 are talking only about one truth, which is I am the Brahman. And if I am the Brahman, so are you, which means we need to look at each other like we are the same. And when we do that, obviously, I am complete only because of your presence. And we both are walking each other home. So it may seem like we are speaking different languages from different continents of the world, but I think the ultimate truth is just this. We are all walking each other home, and we need to believe that divine spark is there in each one of us and respect that. So in the Vedas, the Upanishads, we have something called the Purushartha. What is the meaning of the Purushartha? And there are 4 goals for every human life. It is divided as dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So what is dharma? Dharma is doing your duty to your full potential. Okay, it's fulfilling your responsibility. Our responsibilities at different stages of our lives, and we are supposed to fulfill that at every stage. Next one is artha. Artha here is the material world, having a goal, a purpose, and also making sure there is enough accumulation of wealth, but all in accordance to dharma. You don't break the law, you don't do it at the cost of somebody's health or life, and you make yourself useful in the process of making this money. And karma is the pursuit of pleasure, but also within the 4 walls of dharma, or what is right. While these 3 are very worldly, the 4th one, which is moksha or salvation, the quest for the ultimate happiness, the complete freedom moment, is where the spiritual pursuit is. And at different stages of life, we follow each of those. But if we are aware of how we take our actions and how we move forward, we would be living our lives and leading it with a lot of purpose. And that is where, for me, the text that I go to is the Bhagavad Gita. And what makes the Bhagavad Gita relevant even today after thousands of years is, I see it as a metaphor. It's practical for today. It is, there is this prince, the king, who is due to be a king, who should have got a land that is truly his, but his cousins did not give it to him. And he and his brothers, with a small group of friends and cousins, got together and are fighting on this battle. They are on the battlefield with Krishna, the Supreme, on their side. And here comes this king. Just before the war is to begin, he's all down on his knees saying, I cannot. Everyone I'm fighting on the opposite side is related to me, someone I love. How can I do this? How can I kill them? And for me, that was the best metaphor. Every day we are fighting some ethical battle or the other with the choices we make as professionals in our life. And it is so important for us to understand that when we are in those ethical dilemmas, where do we go? And that's where these texts come as big answers to us. And every question he puts forth is not given an answer. And that's where I see the Gita as a coaching manual, because Krishna doesn't give him answers. He asks him to look inward to find those answers. And that is where this journey, this conversation ends up being such a beautiful conversation of how we can make the most of whatever life is offering to us. And the way the chapters are divided, we are talking about Sat Chit Ananda. Supreme bliss is what all of us are trying for. So it's divided as Karma Yoga, where you do your karma and you work towards achieving it. Bhakti Yoga, where it's completely devotion. And Jnana Yoga, which is on knowledge, where you're seeking and you're getting the answers to the knowledge that you are seeking questions from and answers from. And that's where Tattvam Asi, even something like that, that thou art, is divided in these 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. So the being of a coach becomes absolutely crucial. I will explain how I take and what I take from the Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita in my coaching model. But Janine, I'll come back to you. Is there a particular tool that you use or a model that you use using these indigenous wisdom that you put into full use while you coach?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Rashmi. And first and foremost, I always try and avoid using the word tool. For me, when the word tool comes in, it kind of feels like we come out of presence.
Yeah.
And so I think it's using more than think, I believe, I feel. It's using the principles of what is being learnt through ancient wisdom that we can bring into the coaching. But what I did just want to briefly come back to what Ubuntu was sharing in her introduction. So I was, hearing the similarities of these ancient wisdoms, if that's okay to just go on a little bit of a side journey. But I just really felt that connection in relation to Ubuntu's story with the Maori culture, which is really, again, connecting to the wisdom, not just from the past, but it's also just living in the wisdom that is handed through potentially stories, through connection with family, but also that interconnectedness to the land, the sea, the sky. So in Maori tradition, the sky actually represents their father, and the earth is their mother. So there is this real belief and understanding that the sky is their father, the earth is their mother. And the belief was that they were pressed so closely together that their children lived in darkness. And it was only when it became separated, that part I don't know how that was done, but it was when they became separated, the land and the sky, that the Maori really connected to those elements and the sea in so many different ways of being and doing. So in terms of their being, their mana, their beliefs in themselves and who they are, their identity, their karakias, which I mentioned earlier when we opened, their rituals, their acknowledgement. So this is something that I noticed. Those rituals, the karakia, the acknowledgements to the land and the sky, but also sharing those stories not only through word, through their language, which is so important to Maori, but also in their song, their dance. Movement is a very big thing for them, and singing, really expressing themselves fully, but appreciating, again, their land, their sky, their sea, their parents, and their ancestors. And there's that, I think, Ubuntu, what I got a sense was that real responsibility for self, but also towards others, everything living. And Maori are not only in the now, very in their bodies, connected to the now, but they're also thinking about their future generations. So working with a client, what might be considered a Maori chief, You know, he was going out and thinking about his future millions of years down the line, which was just so amazing to be able to work with someone like that who was thinking so much bigger and beyond himself, but at the same time being very present as to what was happening in his body. So I just wanted to share that based on what Ubuntu shared. And so coming back to your question, Rashmi, for me, it's about, I guess, really taking that learning on, that wisdom on, and bringing those practices into my own coaching practice. So that being in the body, supporting people to connect to their bodies, to their emotions, to think systemically, you know, way out, or to reconnect with the past wisdom, or right here in the present moment. So I don't know if that answers your question, but there's some of the things, and there's so much more, but I'll just share that there's some of the things that I bring into my practice, and also support the people that we train to be aware of those things as well, to really ground, create spaciousness, which allows thoughts to come through, emotions, sensations, energy, etc. So and I think one of my most powerful coaching moments was when I was training a group of Maori women, and one of them bringing in something that was very traumatic, but I really trusted that she brought that in for purpose. I really believed in her and just holding the space, not jumping in to rescue, but absolutely allowing her to find her truth, which really informs my practice going forward. Through that experience, it really cemented that. I think if we've been taught with the ICF approach, we are taught our clients are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And having taught and mentored and supervised many coaches, perhaps many don't trust in that. And perhaps I didn't either until that experience with the Maori woman who was in the coach training room. She really supported me to believe in that more than 100%. There's nothing to fix. Our clients are incredibly resourceful, and it's just having that belief and holding that space. So I'm going to bottom line myself here and come back to you, Rashmi, to see if I answered your question.
No, love this. Really love this. This is amazing. Even as you're saying it, I'm visualizing what the experience must have been like. Because at the end of the day, I think coaching is all about being present, the now, and what we take back, which is powerful. And you were talking about the body experience. At Ubuntu, while we were speaking before this, you always bring the body in while you're speaking. So can you share why that is so important to you?
Thank you, Rashmi. Most indigenous cultures, there is the importance of the body. And I always say the body is the truth teller. The mind can say, I'm okay, but the body will show whether you're okay or not. So I'm finding commonalities in the different indigenous wisdoms of the importance of song and dance to really help people to be in the body. And this is important both when there's joy, the celebration. It's important when there is sorrow or sadness. It's important when there's exploration of needing to get to different levels of consciousness. When I experience or witness indigenous cultures, and when they get so deep into that dance, you witness people transforming into other realms, where you would see people being in a trance, and then the different wisdoms would be more manifest and alive. And as the result, with that, I believe the body also, and being in the body and working with the body, helps us to be cultivating a conducive interpersonal space. So that energy is not just what helps me to transcend, but through the interpersonal space that becomes alive, that becomes an entity. Then the other that you are with, whether in a coaching relationship or in relating, can pick that up. For instance, as you were talking, Rashmi, and sharing and the energy, it's amazing. I didn't hear you with the ears. It just went boom into my chest center, and I could feel that. And this is important. And as we work with that body, it's a readiness to welcome and receive the other. And if I'm thinking about when I grew up, whenever there would be visitors, you would stop everything. You would somehow, even as they got into the yard, they would be welcome with dancing and singing to show you are welcome here. And one similarity with the Indian culture is when you say namaste, which is I see the goodness in you. When we say thank you in my language, we say enkosi. I see the greatness in you. I see the divinity in you. So there's always that. So with Ubuntu and intersecting this with coaching, for me, what becomes critical is that receiving and welcoming the clients. How do you take time? How do you just sit and relax? As people who speak Swahili would say, pole, pole, pole. That means slow down. So that receiving is a way of slowing down, of ensuring that you prepared for this session. And that's when you find that core competency 2 embodies a coaching mindset. So this body helps us to embody that and not get into the head. So with the Ubuntu coaching R, I spend a lot in training people to receive clients, to welcome clients. I spend some time to acknowledge, appreciate the clients, because coaching can be intrusive. The fact that you vulnerable, you come to this person, and as much as we say there's no power differential in coaching, there is. The fact that they look up to you as someone they can come to with their objective. So then with that, I decided we need Ubuntu coaching. And when that happened, it all came together in my dreams. Woke up with a complete model, Rasia. The R is you receive the client, you welcome the client like the divinity, the God that they are. And then A, acknowledge, appreciate the client. Just sit, chill. Don't be in a rush to say, okay, why are you here? What would you like to achieve? Just get to know this being that is in front of you. What is it that is important, that is meaning to this? Can we just chill and not just rush and think about the hour? And then when now we've really created this space of safety and trust, then now we start becoming curious. What brings you today? Just like when we welcome people into our homes, you would talk about their sheep, their crop, and asking them everything, their auntie, their mother-in-law's grandmother, and then what do we owe this honor of your visit? And then as you do that, the person now is relaxed, and we would say to the visitor, you can take the jacket, feel at home. And then now, what would you like to share with us? And we listen deeply, and you would find as a person in rural areas, a Xhosa speaking person, when they are having this conversation, there would be lapses of silence. And you would think, so have they stopped talking? And then someone would say, as you were saying. That curiosity, and not assuming I know what you're saying, but coming from the beginner's mind. And then we check with the people, do we understand? Well, is this what you want? So R-A, then S. You summarize, you test for understanding. Have I understood you well? And if you think about the coaching, it's a core competency 3, confirming, reconfirming what is important to the person you're with. And then and now the E of Rasia, because we are in the body, we become curious of what is happening with the person's body. And as we become curious, we just share just-in-time observation. I notice, as you said this, you looked down, you looked up. What's happening right now? And trying to keep whoever you're working with in their body, in their presence. And then the A of Rasia is ask, 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 ask. Don't assume, don't interpret, don't advise. I'll stop here for now.
Beautiful. I like this model, Rasia. And you're now tempting me to share my model, which is voice. Voice is my framework. And each of those letters for me mean a deeper meaning. And each of them came from either the Yoga Sutra or from the Bhagavad Gita. So I would like to now share that vis-a-vis the core competency. So V stands for vulnerability. So this is exactly where we cultivate the trust and the safety. And the Yoga Sutras, written by Maharshi Patanjali, talks the very first verse in that is Atha Yoga Anushasanam, which means now yoga. And when do you start that? You have that strong desire to be free from any kind of affection, spite, hatred, jealousy, lust, anger, greed. And only such a person can enter into yoga or practice yoga. Because, like I said, yoga is always the union of this body with the divine. And it's a discipline. So, for such a man, this sutra, it says, okay, now when you come with a mind like this, you're ready to take everything yoga is there to offer. So, when you get into a coaching conversation, you need to be in that vulnerable state as much to accept your client for who he is or she is and what they bring into the room. The second one is embodying a coaching mindset, and that is the objectivity. V standing for vulnerability, O for objectivity, and where the second sutra comes into play here, which is yogaha chitti vritti nirodha. That is, yoga happens in a situation where the mind stops fluctuating on its own. And this is very important to understand because yoga happens only when that fluctuation stops. And that cannot be done without you putting in that effort, because otherwise it becomes difficult to understand. So, as a coach, when you get in there, it's very important for you to be objective. You cannot bring in all your baggage into a session. And it becomes very important to stay objective. The third one is I, which stands for informed. So you have vulnerability, objectivity, I for informed. And here comes a very beautiful verse from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which talks about Sthita Prajna, the man of stillness. When Arjuna asks, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha, that is when Krishna explains that Dukheshvanudvigna manaha Sukheshva Vigataspraha Vitaraga Bhaya Krodaha Sthitadir Muniruchyate, which means he whose mind is not perturbed by adversity, who does not crave for happiness, who is free from fondness, fear, and anger, is the Muni of constant wisdom or is a Sthita Prajna. So that is exactly what the coach has to do if he has to listen actively, which is competency 6. And it is very important for you to focus rather than bring in emotions there. The C stands for compassion, which is empathy plus action. And in a way, it is about evoking awareness. And here, the detached attachment comes into play. It's again a verse from the Gita, chapter 5, verse 10, where he talks very beautifully by saying, Brahmanya daya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha liptaye nasapapena padmapatram ivambasi. He who acts abandoning any kind of attachment, dedicating his deeds to the Brahman, is untainted by sin as the lotus leaf by water. Now, the beauty of this comparison or metaphor is the lotus leaf is constantly in water, but it has that ability to allow the water to move away with the slightest wind. Water stays there as droplets. And because if it gets bogged down by the weight of the water, the leaf will rot. And that is the beauty. We are constantly in this world, and which is full of attachments and reasons to be completely lost in it. And the idea is to build this detached attachment. As a core competency, it comes around evoking the awareness, allowing the client and facilitating the insight, learning to use different tools and techniques such as questioning, silence, which is such an underutilized tool, and then metaphors and analogy. And E in the voice stands for engagement, where you are, as a core competency, facilitating client growth. And this comes from a very beautiful verse in chapter 6 of the Gita, which says, Uddared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha, which is, let a man rise himself by his own self. Let him not debase himself, for he is himself his friend and himself his enemy. So it's all about going inwards to understand this. So the client's growth is something that we as coaches need to really understand. But for that, we need to be very clear that you need to make him understand that he has it in him to bring the best side out, because the man at the end of the day is his best friend as much as his enemy. So this entire framework starts with vulnerability, which is to create the trust and safety. Objectivity is both with confidence and flexibility. Coming across as informed on self-expression, environment, compassion by using silence, metaphors, and being non-judgmental. And engagement is when the output is growth and awareness. And that's where the power of the voice, which can be used by us as coaches, is in all fairness. So this is the tool that I use, the model that I use. I won't use tool, Janine. I remember you don't like it. So I'll say model that I use for coaching. And would love to know anything that you specifically use or would want to share, any coaching story of yours, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi. Yes, well, a model, I believe, is always a great starting point for all of us as coaches, and it's more the tools that we might bring in. But of course, as master certified coaches or masterful coaches, doesn't matter if you've got MCC or not, we can bring in these tools and processes and models in a way that flows, that is appropriate. So I'll just share that. And again, I really appreciate what you've both shared, and linking all of that to the competencies. And again, what came in as I was listening to you both is it's really, and again, connecting it back to the Maori culture, it is slowing down, coming into presence, coming into our bodies, connecting to our emotions. And if we are able to support our clients to do that, even though it's slowing everything down, we can actually support the client quicker in relation to what it is they want to explore, because they're going to those deep, wise places within them versus staying here in the head. So that's what came to mind as I was listening to you both. And in answer to your question, Rashmi, bringing in again the Maori culture, what else came to me was again that awareness and appreciation that the Maori's mother is the earth and the father is the sky. So it's supporting people to be grounded to the earth. So that might be through values, while at the same time looking at what's possible. So looking into the sky, so to speak, as to what is possible. Or it might be looking at, how to balance our day-to-day responsibilities with so the groundedness of us, as well as the aspirations and dreams. So looking to the sky. So it's allowing space for people to navigate those worlds, to identify what space is required so that more light and growth can come through. But again, just connecting to the Maori wisdom and linking that back to the competencies. So, for example, the karakia is all about creating that safe place and clearing distractions and honoring the seen and unseen. It's acknowledging the client's whole being, their body, their heart, their mind, their soul. So that really connects to, I believe, competency 4, cultivating trust and safety. And if we look at, say, competency 3, again, the karakia can help with those collective agreements about purpose, intention, and safety. Coming back to competency 2, the Maori people like to approach their world with humility. Again, reverence for wisdom beyond self. It's so much more than about self. It's open to the past, the present, and the future. Looking at competency 5, for example, karakia once again comes in, but also song and dance and storytelling helps to anchor people in their present, in their present moment, reminding them of their connection to others, past, present, future, and their environment. So these are just some of the ways that the ancient wisdom, the rituals, really connect to the competencies of coaching and how we can bring that in. And just briefly, the competency 7, for example, the Maori really connect through metaphors, imagery, and that connection to nature. Again, the sea, everything living, forests, rivers, mountains. It's a way of supporting them, connecting to those elements. And what does that mean for them? How does that link to their values? what's it here for? What's it here to teach them? So it's incredibly rich to delve into what the Maori bring to themselves, to others, and to the wider world, to the wider world. And I know, coming back to Rachel as well, she's really on a mission to support Indigenous women around the world, and that's happening. So it's really supporting, particularly women, to embrace that and spread that wisdom, spread that journey. So yeah, it's very, very exciting. And I know, there's obviously many, many incredible people who are doing that. So I just feel very fortunate to have had the experience with Rachel.
Yeah, that's so true. I think all three of us are totally fortunate to be doing what we are doing and blessed. And I'm sure you join me in gratitude with whatever the divine has blessed us with. And coaching also sometimes exhausts the coach. So, how do you find your energies? Ubuntu, you can go first, and then maybe Janine. How do you find that space to find yourself back again and reconnect? What do you do?
Thank you. I believe in coaching with heart and backbone. I love that book. And the meta skills for me are good in resourcing both the coach and the coachee. For instance, with the Ubuntu coaching, one of the parts of that came through was the sailing the 7 seas, which embeds the meta skills and also the kind of backbone skills. And those 7 C's are, as we meet the other people, coming with compassion, caring, courage. And then as we do that, we see others and we hear them, and that enables the fabric for co-creation. And there is a curiosity, just, that sense of not knowing, of not being an expert. And
Yeah.
as we connect, what I find when I connect with other people, I come alive, and I find that also connects me to my ancestry and also connects me to the ancestors of the person I am working with. And then within that fabric of love, within that fabric of seeing, of hearing, of deep listening, then the commitment to action happens organically because the person is ready. I'm ready. So I work a lot on practices that bring these heart qualities. I'm a mindfulness teacher since 1999 and a Buddhist teacher. So Buddhism helps me to ground myself.
Correct.
And when I coach, I don't schedule my sessions too close to each other. I need to take my shoes in between, go outside to nature, walk in the grass, and be able to connect. And with that, a mantra came from this Ubuntu coaching. And the mantra, which is applicable to me as a coach and the coachee, is we need to see more. Sawubona, hear more, listen deeply and actively, love more. Who said we can't bring love to coaching? When I teach people, I ask them, please remember, just recall your first experience of falling in love. Just feel that in your body. Can you bring that to this person that you're working with? And as we see, we hear people, and we love them, we illuminate ourselves, we illuminate them all the time.
Yeah.
And also we be more, we're not human doings. Be more for others to become, and for goodness sake, do less. So
Yeah.
see more, hear more, love more, illuminate more, be more for others to become, and do less. So it's about the dance of just being.
I love this. I'm going to repeat this. Correct me if I got everything, Nubantu. So the 7 C's are compassion, caring, courage, co-creation, curiosity, connections, commitment to action. And see more, hear more, listen more, love more. Because when we eliminate ourselves, it's all about eliminating the others around us. And when we eliminate others, what is important for us to understand is we are not human doings, we are being human. Beautiful, beautiful. Janine, is there something that you would want to tell us what you do?
Yes, thank you for the invitation. And again, Ubuntu, that was beautiful. I really resonated with that wholly and completely. And there's a part of me that knows, and there's a part of me that, and I'm guessing a lot of us on this can probably appreciate that. As coaches, we are also running a business. Many of us,
Yeah.
and there are so many hats that we have to wear, so many things we have to juggle and be mindful of. So I believe we really do need to put on our oxygen mask and create that space for ourselves, for our own self-care. And so some of those practices for me are really creating reflective practice. So journaling, and I'm not a huge journaler, but just taking down a couple of notes I find can help, and then that just continues my reflection as I go on in my day. So I reflect often, but not. I don't write a whole reams of things unless something is really important to do so. But I just love, again, to go out in nature.
Yeah.
As Ubuntu said, walk in the grass. I've got a little garden. I just love going out there and tending to the plants and whatever nature I can look after, the birds that come in. That gives me great pleasure. Connecting with my cat. He's a big talker. So, but actually connecting with those that I love, because, as I mentioned, having a practice, a busy role as a business owner and a coach, I know that sometimes I can take for granted the people that I truly love. So really taking that time out to have
Yeah.
really deep conversations, as in, we don't have to go into deep places, but just be really present and listening. That is really important for me, that connectedness.
That's
Mm. I'm going to stop there, but there are more, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, one thing that I do is a breathing practice. Apart from whatever you all said, I definitely do most of them.
Mm.
But breathing, deep breathing, is something that I do as well. I just get out physically from the space that I was in and move to a different space. And I sit down, and there is this breathing technique, which is the splitting of Om, transliterated AUM, as in Ah, U, So just doing that breathing technique helps me feel that much more relaxed. Doesn't matter how many times, but just doing it completely in that moment kind of takes away everything, and you feel that much more lighter. And for me, that helps a lot, apart from everything else that both of you shared. Uh, we are close to our 90-minute call, and I think I'd like to open it for questions. So, are both of you ready to take some questions?
Yes, and I might just quickly add to Rashmi something that I first thought of.
Hmm?
is just anything that tells me that my body is, or that I'm off track, that I am in a space that is closing me down, is to absolutely be open to, okay, what is this coming in for? What's this here? What's the wisdom of my body or my thoughts or whatever may be going on? Just really trusting that everything is feedback as
Hmm.
to what we could potentially do differently.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. It is. It is a feedback. I think everything around us is giving feedback. We just need to connect to it and be aware of that connection. So, ladies, I'm going to take some questions if there are any. uh, yeah, a lot of appreciation. Thank you so very much. Yes, here's a deep question. How can ancient wisdom support end the war happening across the world? And Rajiv is asking us this question. So, would any one of you want to take this? Okay. Is there any way the question can be up so we don't forget the exact words of the question?
I could speak to
Yeah, go
that.
ahead. Go ahead.
For me, what's important with especially Ubuntu is seeing ourselves in others.
Hmm.
And what that means, that is non-duality.
Yeah.
I'm not separate from you. I'm you. I see myself in you.
Yeah.
And when we really, really practice this seeing others, then we can cause no harm. If you look at places where there has been genocide, there is a dehumanizing of the people that are going to be sort of attacked or whatever. They would be called names of something that you can squash. So when we see humanity in others, we likely to have the heart opening. And if I see yourself as not human, then I can hurt you. And just to give an example, right now I'm a mentor in one program of teaching Buddhist teachers and mindfulness teachers. And because of this Ubuntu, I have been given a group of women from Palestine to mentor. And amazingly, you would be with this group for 2 hours at a session, and you would hear the shelling. You would hear all of that is happening. And through coming to this, just witnessing the people coming from the heart, these people who are hurting so much, and through compassion, through mindfulness, through seeing with the eyes of the heart, they are able not to harbor any hatred towards the perpetrators of these crimes. So it's possible only if we can let our hearts open and be tender. We don't need all the ammunition in the world. We all have hearts. And that's what saved Viktor Frankl
Yeah.
during the Holocaust.
Yes.
Just him having compassion for the perpetrators and just being aware that these people are human too. These people are capable of love. That is the spirit of Ubuntu.
Yeah, you're so right. Because what I was thinking also was Viktor Franklin and that amazing quote that he said, which I really love: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, it is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So I think that space is so powerful. And if only these leaders think a little, I'm sure. And they need coaches, Rajiv, and they clearly they are being coached. Okay. Any other question that we missed? Can we, as a coach, coach with heart while practicing detached attachment? Yes, we can. But
Mm.
before I give the answer, would Nubantu or Janine want to take that? Coach with a heart while practicing detached attachment.
Well, I believe I'll say yes, we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, when we bring our hearts to our coaching session, you know, we really create that space, that trust, that safety. But I guess it's about reframing
Yeah.
the situation. I know, Rashmi, you've got a beautiful metaphor that you can share that really highlights how we can do this.
Yeah.
But I believe that it's not getting attached to the outcome.
Yeah.
It's again holding that premise that our clients are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. There's nothing to fix, there's nothing to rescue. Our clients are making choices. They are making the choices to do whatever they wish to do based on whatever awareness they create. And it's really trusting that we're all going on a journey of learning, discovery, and wherever they are is perfect, imperfectly perfect, I'll say. So we can still empathize and really want the best for our clients, and yet not get detached, just trusting they're on the journey that they're meant to be on. That's the framing that I have when working with my clients. But I'd like to hand over to you, Rashmi, because I know you've got a beautiful metaphor that can really
Yeah.
highlight that.
I'm also looking at the clock, Janine.
Yeah.
We just have a minute, and
Fantastic.
there is Jayashree back to remind us that.
I know by the end of this conference, I'm going to be, completely blacklisted by all speakers. When you see her, then, it's time to go. No, but wonderful, my darling ladies. I think it has been an amazing, amazing conversation. You can see it in the chat as well, but we are also seeing it on other, other channels of communication. And I think what is coming up very, very prominently is that there is so much of similarity behind the behind the diversity that we see on the outside. So I think it just reinforces our belief that it's just the same root and we are just manifested differently. So fantastic. I think people are wanting more. And what if I may request you, to stay back for maybe a few minutes. So there is something called as lounge, and this announcement is also for our audience. There is a lounge, so for that people have to go back to the reception area and then they can join a lounge. There are different tables that are created. So there's a table for ancient wisdom, and people can join on that table. And if you could stay back for a few minutes on that table and maybe talk to people, answer their questions or guide them, that would be really, really great. Rajiv, if there is anything else that I don't know how to do it or how to navigate, please guide me and guide others.
No, Jayashree, I think, after we leave this session, there is a lounge area. And when we click on lounge, there would be multiple lounge that we see. The lounges are labeled as ancient wisdom. So if all of you can join that, because there are a lot of questions that have come, but we are not with the lack of time, we are not able to answer them. So you can answer those questions in the lounge, and I would also urge our people who have asked the questions to join the lounge and directly talk to you one on one with their
Uh-huh.
questions.
And
And
how do you
fortunately, we
join the
have
lounge?
time. Fortunately, we
Um,
have time till the next session.
yes.
How do
So
we join the lounge?
We will be ending this session, and then when we end this session, you will be on the reception area where you see
Oh,
reception, lounge,
oh,
and booth. So
all right.
on the lounge, when you click, there you will see multiple breakout rooms kind of a structure, and one room will be labeled as ancient wisdom. So maybe you can all join there. I would ask the participants who wants to ask you questions directly, they can come and meet you there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
lovely ladies.
So you
Thank
can click
you.
on the button on the top left-hand side, the red button, to leave this session. And Jayashree, you would like to make an announcement about other?
So I think let
Okay.
this go on. We'll make
All
it
right.
before the next.
Shall
Okay.
I do a closing karakia?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
We need a grounding exercise again by Janine. Thank you so much, Janine. I got carried away.
That's
So
okay.
she opened it for us by centering us. Janine has agreed to also do the conclusion. So please go ahead, Janine.
Thank you. Thank you. It won't be long. Thank you. So, taking a nice big deep breath in, talking about breath. Draw on, draw on. Release us from the mantle of this conference. Draw on the supreme sacredness so we can stand free. To clear, to free the heart, the body, and the spirit of mankind. Feel free to hang it up. Be comfortable. Join it. Gather it. It is done. Thank you.
So be it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone.